All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Finding Nemo edition of Truth in Tech, show where we go over the week's most interesting tech stories and sometimes some stories that are only tangentially technical.
So Nemo is the name of the winter storm that's hitting Boston right now. It's actually snowing quite a bit. And the Weather Channel announced that they were starting to name snowstorms as well as hurricanes. So they said it's easier for people to relate and remember and be able to follow it on social media. So people can just hashtag the name of the storms. And it's easier to keep them updated. And so the name of this one is Nemo. And they said the reasoning behind it their way of naming the winter storms are names with attitude is their criteria.
Names with attitude.
So that's why they would choose Nemo, right? This cute little Disney fish.
I mean, it does make sense that they want it to be more searchable and hashtagable. I hadn't even realized that they didn't name storms or didn't name winter storms before.
Yeah. So now they're putting out names. They have a whole names list of possible ones like Draco and
Oh my god.
Apparently
Draco?
Animated characters or like fictional characters. Harry Potter. Yeah.
All right. Cool. Let's see. Well, what else is going? What's going on? Else is going on in Boston besides all the snow?
Oh yes. Okay. So an actual tech story was that Twitter bought Bluefin Analytics for $100 million.
It's a lot of money.
Yes. So let's see. So this is the MIT lab now has been at the forefront of social TV analytics since it was founded in 2008.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is the second Kendall Square-based analytics company Twitter has acquired within the span of a week.
I know, it's crazy. They bought, I think, Crashlytics, late last week. I think Bluefin, we had the head of their engineering speak at the Boston Hadoop meetup last year. And they do really cool Twitter data analysis. And basically the purpose is just to count social media, TV mentions on social media, and use it as a prediction of audience engagement. Because people now are more about engagement than just pure numbers. So it's a sensible buy, I think.
And sentiment, do they measure positive and negative sentiment?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just a much deeper way of calculating who's actually watching shows. So smart buy, I think. And they're staying in Cambridge, Bluefin is, so that's good.
Keeping it in Boston, Well, Boston has a very big tech scene, so I think that's smart and nice.
Totally.
Good for making relationships,
I agree.
How's New York?
So nothing, I didn't really have a big story for New York this week, but I did see that Makerbot, which is one of the two big 3D printing companies here, is now holding 3D printing classes in their Soho shop. So you can if you don't have your own 3D printer, which not many people do, you can learn how to test out theirs, and they're having a class on making 3D Valentines next week on the 10th. So maybe I'll do that because I think that would be really fun.
That'd be awesome. I just found out that Uber and Lyft, sorry, it's super loud back here.
It's okay.
The car or ride-sharing companies are going back to California. So in October, the CPUC, California Public Utilities Commission, issued a cease and desist against the ride-sharing companies because they were getting a lot of backlash from taxi drivers saying that it was kind of affecting their business.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people protested against it, and so they just announced that they're going to allow these car services to go back to California.
Yeah, I don't know. Uber has an interesting tactic that a lot of companies are now following, like Aereo, where they do something that is illegal and wait and get their service out, and then wait for the government to come forward and say you can't do that. And by that time, they already have like a big user base who's going to complain, and so they get in kind of like by forcing the back door. And it's worked so far. Because they won it. They won their battles in D.C. and Boston too, and New York. So it's an aggressive tactic, but kind of a smart one, I guess, if you have the push behind it. Oh, so last week we were talking about the possibility of Dell going private, and it did indeed this past week go private. $24 billion leveraged buyout. $2 billion was financed by Microsoft. Some came from the private equity firm Silver Lake. Some came from banks, and Michael Dell himself gave, I think, $750 million. Yeah, so they'll be less focused on profit and able to spend more time researching and improving their PCs, which is what the bulk of their profit comes from, and they've been dropping in market share for a while. So I think the move to private is actually probably going to be beneficial for them. And yeah, Dell is you can no longer buy Dell stock, basically. Yeah.
Related to Microsoft, in more Microsoft news, I was reading on Mashable that the government was looking into building a free public Wi-Fi network. So Google and Microsoft are partnered up to support the effort, it said, because it would greatly benefit them because Microsoft is looking more into hardware. And so selling devices that, benefit from Wi-Fi would increase their sales of those devices. Yeah. So I don't know what that would mean for having this whole free public Wi-Fi network that I guess would be owned by the government. I don't know how Big Brother that would be, but
yeah, that's interesting. I know the public Wi-Fi, community Wi-Fi has been a growing movement, especially in DC. And is it so? Are they planning out something nationwide?
Yeah, and it's saying that this would drive a wedge between telecom providers and the world's biggest technology companies.
Yeah.
So
that's probably a good thing. Also, it's still a lot of parts of the more rural parts of the country don't have good access to Wi-Fi. So if they're going to do something to address that, that would be really great.
So a lot of the cell phone carriers like AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, and Qualcomm are pretty lobbying hard against it.
Yeah, of course.
So I guess we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm in favor of that from the little I know.
Yeah, me too.
Cool. Let's see. So another kind of interesting story that came out this week. Originally, Jamel Booty wrote this piece in this publication called The Magazine, which is, I should know more about it, but it's an online-only magazine with no ads. and it was about why tech media is so heavily white. Basically, it's like a combination, which I kind of noticed when I worked at, when I interned at Connie Nast, but it's a combination of like dependence on unpaid internships to get into the paid jobs. And then like those people that get the paid jobs like have a sort of a wired network boys club of contacts that and friends of friends that go into the same field, and so you end up with this really homogenous industry. And so yeah, he published this piece, and then Jason Calacanis, who's I'm trying to think of what he sold like some company to AOL, I think, and then he tried to do this human search engine called Mahalo, which I don't know, I've never used it. Anyways, he's kind of like one of those tech figures of his own making. He wrote like a piece being like to Jamel being like, you're wrong. It's a tech media is a meritocracy, and I'm an example of that. Which in turn prompted a lot of responses from people like Anil Dash being like, you're telling me that the experience I had didn't happen, and you have no place to tell me that. Anyways, and then there were like pieces in response to those pieces, and basically like there have been a lot of really interesting pieces this week about race relations in tech media, and sort of like the issue of behavior matching and what it like the effects it has on what gets covered. When Pinterest came out, journalists really slept on it because it was really popular with female and lifestyle bloggers, and male tech journalists weren't necessarily interested in that. So it was this huge story, but it came after Pinterest was already really successful. And basically, so yeah, bloggers kind of influence to an extent what gets bought. And so if it's the same type of products that always get attention, it creates like a weirdly skewed and weirdly influenced tech network, I guess. And yeah, there were some really, I'll put the links to the pieces, to some of the more interesting pieces in the post, but there was some really, stuff I knew like in tech in general, there's some, at least a lot of gender issues, but I hadn't really thought about it as a tech media problem.
Yeah, that sounds interesting, especially the part about how it starts out with your unpaid internships, and then that kind of like spurs the career trajectory, which I hadn't considered.
It really does though, because if you think about it, you have to have the money to be able to afford an unpaid internship, right? And yeah, so it really
network and get a lot of the skills, and that's a lot. I mean, anywhere you go now, it's kind of required to have at least one internship,
right? In general, sort of like editorial type internships don't pay or pay almost nothing. So it really is a problem, and I'm glad that these pieces came out, because they have gotten a lot of attention. So I think that's all the news stories we have. Do you have any app of the week? Apps of the week?
I have two, because I couldn't decide. I know. Well, one is pertinent to Valentine's Day coming up next week, and the other is just awesome because I have a terrible time deciding, and so there's this app called Seesaw, which it's basically co-tweet founders. Okay, so anyway, Seesaw. So basically, it's an app that you can take a picture of, say, an outfit you're wearing, and then have your friends vote on it if they like it or not. Okay. Or if you're going into a store and you can't decide which purse to buy, then you can take a picture of both of the purses, and then they can vote on which one they like better. So basically, it's like side-by-side comparison of something like, where should I go, or which wallpaper should I choose, and then your friends get to vote on it, and so then
nice.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I mean, I feel like you could already do that with text messages. But
yeah, but the interface is pretty interesting.
All right,
so
cool.
I like that one. Yeah. So for people that need help making decisions, there you go. And then for Valentine's Day coming up, there's this really creepy app called Tinder. Have you heard of it before?
No.
Okay. So it says it's like a dating app, or it's trying to be a dating app, but it's just creepy. So like anyone who has the app, it will give you kind of like Face Smash would. He did before Facebook. So it gives you like hot or not kind of. So it gives you a picture of someone within the area that also has the app, and asks you to like be like yes or no, hot or not, whatever. And then if you say yes and the other person says yes, then it will like match you up and tell you where they are, so you can go through the awkward like, hey, I found you on this app, so here's my number, which is weird. And so
okay, well, all right, so maybe that one doesn't have a full-fledged recommendation, but
no, maybe maybe not so much.
Okay, but it
might be worth a try.
Sure, why not?
But this is not one I recommend.
Yeah, that sounds neat. I'll check that out. Cool. All right, everyone. Well, thank you for joining us. And if you're in a hurricane-y or winter stormy area, good luck. I hope you weather it well, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye, guys.